I'm going to show you how to add a light in the ceiling right up here without having to tear out all that drywall. And it works best if you have a can light like this. So, what we're going to use is one of these. This is a Remodel can light. Most of them come in a box that mounts like this, as I will show you. Something like that. Now that's how it looks most of the time if you're doing a new install. If you just want to cut a hole in the ceiling and add one, you got this and it mounts on the drywall. Comes in super handy if you don't want to tear out the whole ceiling. So, I put a mark here, measured it. There's another light over here, it's just outside the frame. You can't see it. But these are equidistance apart. Boom, boom, boom. Actually, this mark's off. I gotta remeasure that. So, we'll go ahead and get that lined out. And we'll go from there. Okay. That's my new mark. I'm gonna double check it before I cut a hole. 3 feet. 30. Center. 3 feet. Double checking is always a good idea before you cut a hole in the ceiling. It's not fun to patch. Okay. Alrighty, one more time, just to be safe. Alright, good to go. So, I've got this little guy here. It's a circumference cutter. And it's adjustable. You take it. It's got measurements on it, but I like to double check with a tape measure. So you're going to take half the width of this. And this has flanges on it. So you don't want to measure completely from the outside to outside. You want to be on the inside of those flanges because that's what's going to hold you to the ceiling. So I'm going to go 6 1/4 wide total, which means this needs to be half of that. So this needs to be 3 1/8 from there to there. These are really cheap, about 10 bucks in any hardware stores. So, got my center mark. And away we go. Now, a big thing to consider if you're adding a light in the ceiling where you don't want to pull out drywall is making sure your floor joists in the ceiling, or ceiling joists if there's no floor above you, are running parallel with the wire you're going to run, because you're not going to be able to run wire sideways through those joists when it's covered by drywall. So what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to take this light out, I'm going to run electrical wire from there to here because it's in a bay and the joists run this way. So I don't have to, I know I'm not going to run into any obstacles. Okay, I've got my outline done. I've got a keyhole saw. Another real cheap tool. Boom. There you go. And this works out great because I moved some lights over here. And right here in the ceiling where I took out this light, I can use this to patch that hole. So I'm just going to stuff it up here to save that. And I'll show you how to do that later. This is something most people do with the electricity off. But I like to see what I'm doing. More exciting that way, you know? Okay. So, I took out the light, took out the halo. Now what I'm going to do is take out this screw, that screw, and that screw. And that allows me to access the panel through here without having to cut into the ceiling. So get my screwdriver. And here we go. Set this down. Okay, I've taken out all the screws. Now this should be able to move freely I'm just going to kind of push that up and out of the way as much as I can. And right here, you're going to see there's a box that's accessible. And it just has a quick release. It opens up real easily. So there's the wiring. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a wire, feed it up into there, fish it through, pull it out down here. I'm using standard Romex 12-2 wire for this. A lot of these kind of lights, 14-2 is sufficient, but never hurts to have a bigger gauge for less resistance. It keeps it cooler. Okay, so I got a couple of obstacles in there. I feel some cross braces, but I'm still going to be able to fish through there. I'm kind of just making a path. The longer this is, I mean, these happen to be real close together. Sometimes you got a big distance to cover, and you might need a wire that can fish through before you send the electrical to. You just tape the electrical to the wire and then pull it through after you've fished it in. Now this was fairly easy because I can reach both sides. So I'm going to give myself enough to work with. More is always better than less. Cut it out. Okay. Cool. There you go. Okay, so now this is ready for the wire. What I'm going to do is, this thing has a quick release as well. Pop it out. Now you can access that. And this has a few spots you can choose to put your wire through depending on the direction you're coming from and how you want it to run in. I'm just going to go through the end because they'll be facing each other. And use a screwdriver to pop into that tab. Just open it up. Get rid of that. You're also going to need this little electrical bushing. They also make plastic ones, connectors, and that works just as well. But you're going to need that to beat a code to come into this box. I'm just going to put that there, thread it in just like this. Go. And now, got my square head. This is pretty standard for a lot of electrical stuff. Out of focus, but that's okay. Just going to loosen these up so I've got room to play with. And I send my wire in there. And typically when you're wiring lights, you only want 2 wires per box so that they jump and daisy chain, so you don't have 3 coming out of one. If you can, if it's possible, just do 1 out of each. But here, I'm just going to be jumping into an existing line, so there'll be 3 in one box and 1 in the other. Okay, that's ready to roll. Take my blade. These are sweet, Sheffield. Also keeps extra blades in there, which is nice. And you want to cut about 6 inches. I like to cut just straight down the line. It's a lot more simple, easier to strip it, and then just cut off the excess, just like that. Get rid of that cardboard. Okay. Now that I have that exposed, I'm going to strip 3/4 of an inch off these ends, the white and black, and go ahead and feed it in here. It's open, coming through that hole. Simple as pie. There you go. And then tighten that up around the wire. Until it has a nice firm grasp on it. And I like to make sure it's even, so I go back and forth between them. Make sure that nut is tight on there as well. There we go. Okay. So we got that done. Coming close. This is pretty easy to do. You got these come with these standard push-in connectors. Really easy to come across. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. And then these are just going to push straight into them. I always like to start with ground, because the ground is going to keep you from getting continuously electrocuted. If you do get electrocuted, it will trip the breaker. So, take that. Bare copper wire, that's your ground. Push it in there, make sure it's in there tight. You can see that it's all the way into the end. And bury that in there. Next I'm going to do my neutral, which is white. So, get my black out of the way. Slide my neutral on there. There we go, nice and tight all the way in. And these are made for 3/4 inch depth, so I know it's going to fit just right. You don't want any of the wire exposed, you want it all the way in there, and that's all the way down to the edge. So there you go. Real simple. Those are all in there. I'm going to slide this back into place. And pop it on there. There you go. It's good to have a little bit of excess in the ceiling. So if you ever pull this out again, you got room to pull it out. And you know what? I'm going to pull a little bit of this insulation out of the way so that there's room for that light to fit in there. I'm just going to scoot it over to either side because I want this to be able to fit all the way up inside there. Okay, and that's going to face towards the other light. And then these little clips, make sure they're all slid in. They come out, make sure they're in. Beautiful. Okay, cool, those are all in. Now that that's in there, I'm going to push those tabs up on the clips. Hammer helps. Just tap the edges of the tabs. There's 1, 2, 3, and there's 4. And now it's seated nice on the drywall. Okay, next we're going to tie into the existing power. So like I was saying before, I like to have some extra wire in the ceiling, so if I ever pull that light back out, then I'll have room to do that. And it can just kind of be tucked up in there. And then I'm going to gauge how much I need. Enough to be able to pull that other light out. And then I want enough to fit about 6 inches in the box, so that's where I'm going to cut it. Right here. My clippers. My wire cutters seem to have disappeared, so I'm using this guy. That's cut to length. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to strip this wire down, strip the 2 edges of the 3/4 inch off the hot and neutral, and then we'll tie it into that box. And again, you should turn the power off, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it on because this is pretty safe to tie into those push locks. Always cut away from yourself. Standard wire stripper, pretty easy to come across. Okay, you can see there's an existing connector. So I'm going to see if I can take this wire and slide it in through that same connector. Right here. You might have to push that out of the way a little bit and then force it in. I'm going to have to set down the camera to do that. Plate. Okay. Now we're going to pull the can back into place. We got it set aside. Okay, so let's see how I pull the can back out, and then where those 3 screws are, I'm just going to line them up with where those tabs are at. Right there. Perfect. Three screws that I set aside, cover in the can. Put those back into place. Put them all in loose first before you tighten it all the way, just to make sure they all line up, and that you can set the depth of your can. Okay, now screws are back in. This one, that one, and that one. I'm just going to tighten them back up. Set my depth just below the surface of the drywall. It's not going to stick out past the edge. Okay, here's one. Two. And three. I'm going to be doing some mudding on the ceiling just to do some texturing. But if you're not, then you'll want to put your halo in first and then put your light in. This is your halo, spring loaded. So put these two springs to the inside so I can grab it from underneath. And then you see that tab and that tab is what we're going to hook to. Just go up in here. There we go, there's one. And now it's hooked. Grab my light and put it in there. And there you have it. An extra light in your room.